Okay, wonderful. Very warm good morning and good afternoon upon the time zone you are in. So if you are in East Coast, but a very warm good afternoon. But if you are in a very, very warm good morning. I'm really happy and delighted to have great minds together here on this. We have four great industry leaders with us today. And I would like to take this opportunity to, first of all, say thank you so much for taking out time today. And would like to begin with a formal introduction of our panelists this morning. I would like to begin the introduction with David Duralde first. Uh, David Duralde is the Chief Creative Officer at OGI Eyewear. David has extensive experience both with licensed and independent brands, including his most recent role as the Chief Creative Officer. David is a leader and is heading OGI Eyewear, which is a leader in optical. He and his teams have developed eyeglass and sunglass designs for major fashion houses, which is being worn by over 60 million people worldwide. His creative influence, innovation, and change in all development, merchandising, sales, marketing, and customer engagement. David has a Bachelor of Arts degree from UCLA. Prior to OGI Eyewear, he is also looking after Kenmark Eyewear, and he has worked with Safilo USA. David, we are glad to have you here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the welcome. I really appreciate it. Excited.
Welcome. We are too. We too. Absolutely. Uh, our next panel today we have with us is Rob Smith. Rob is the founder of the Phluid, and Rob has studied a Bachelor of Arts in Marketing and Marketing Management from Michigan State University. The first retail brand, the Rob has built this brand Phluid Project that does not stick to the binary definition of gender and is on a mission to build a brand that exists for individuals to express themselves openly without judgment or fear. Uh, Rob has planned to turn the attention to pop-ups, collaborations, education, beauty products, and additional merchandise. Rob is also a member of board of directors, and previously he has been the global chief product officer at Haddad Brands, which enabled him to build out a stronger team with strategic oversight of daily operations in design, branding, sourcing, and marketing. He has led teams of various scales and sizes, and it's a pleasure to have Rob today panel discussion with us.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. We have on the panel is Beth. Beth is the co-founder and chief visionary at Unspun. Unspun is a fashion tech startup based in San Francisco, working to make the fashion intentional, inclusive, and sustainable through custom on-demand manufacturing. Beth Beth's work has been featured in Time Magazine Best Invention of 2019. They have also been awarded by H&M Foundation, the SF Design Week Award winner, and they have worked really hard and they are been collaborating with brands to bring custom fit and on-demand, and they are trying to bring a change in the way the world is moving. Beth, welcome to the panel discussion.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to learning from everyone here.
Next we have on the panel with us is Brian McDonell. Brian is the co-founder and president at Brian is a passionate brand builder, entrepreneur, a marketeer, connector, action sport fanatic. Brian grew up in Simi Valley, where his off-road inspired clothing venture in a junior high school year. And after high school, he attended Chico State University to study international business. And he has a specialized degree in apparel manufacturing and management from Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in LA. While in college, he has managed an action sports lifestyle chain store and got his official start in the apparel business at 21-year-old, working for our Orange County-based surf brand Split USA. Back in 2005, he identified a hole in the current headwear market and the planted, and he built this first premium headwear option in the baseball cap category. And Brian is an avid reader, enjoys charity work, and is very fond of growing his network of motivated and creative people outdoors, on the boat, or anywhere with his family. We are with us today on the panel.
Thank you, Kuldeep. And I don't know if anyone else is picking up the delays I'm getting, but if it's just me, it's a little choppy. So I appreciate the welcome and looking forward to chatting with everyone else. And hopefully this connection will get a little better here.
Sure.
It is a little choppy that maybe if we put ourselves on mute until we speak, it might make it a little less choppy.
Yeah. So, so glad to have you all today on this panel. I would like to begin with this first question, with the need of the hour, I can say, which is, how is your brand adapting and evolving, keeping in mind the end consumers, especially during these times, which are turbulent and challenging? I would like to begin with probably David. David, if you can answer the question.
We all know that, times have changed so drastically in this year, and it just isn't really recognizable to what we know in business. So we've had to make a lot of changes. We've had to adapt. And one of the things that's a call out is we feel we have to be more sensitive to where people are at as customers, because they've gone through so many different things that maybe we can or maybe we can't relate to. So just having that in the relationship and knowing up front that you have to be more imaginative and creative and really just show people that you support them during this time, and then to open yourself up to listen. Because what people really want to know about business is that there's a human scale to it and a human side to it. So I would say that's probably the most fundamental thing in the beginning to adapt to the times that are going on, is just you create a sensitivity and you create a listening for what people's needs are. And then you have to be open and flexible as a company so that you can, once you've heard these ideas and you are seeing ways that you can move forward in the future, you're very adaptable and flexible, because that's what people expect from you as a business, is to be there maybe in a new and innovative way.
Extremely insightful, David, there. So listening to your consumers, having empathy and supporting them in this journey, because empathy is one of the most important things that brands have to have for their consumers. Excellent thought there. Move to Brian. Brian, what are your thoughts on how brands are evolving, keeping in mind during these times?
I'll echo David here. We definitely don't keep our customers in mind. We're always centering the way we think about everything around the customer experience. We're in a unique position in that we build products that are this like billboard on the front of your head. And so we work really hard internally to be sure that in the event we have a customer engage with us via social, to make a purchase, ultimately to communicate with us, that we leave them better than when that engagement began, meaning more inspired, happier, more fulfilled. And then that's thought through all the way through to the actual brand decision making and the way in which we help communicate the type of person that consumer is when they wear our hat. And so in this unique time, through quarantine, we had the privilege of being the only part of the body you could elevate via wardrobe other than eyewear, while you're on a Zoom call. And so we were able to create some smiles and some connectivity to the consumer then. So we adapted to the marketing campaign messaging to be a lot more relevant to being quarantined at home when we build, performance outdoor headwear. You typically are protecting yourself from the sun with a ball cap. And adapting is it's kind of in our core values, being very innovative. And so we've listened very closely. We've been very sensitive to the topics going on in the world, and more so now than ever, I think not remaining quiet on basically what your brand stands for is important. We need to take positions and empower people to align or disagree. Both are fine with us, but to be silent is kind of unacceptable at this stage in the game. And so, yeah, we've been outspoken about what we stand for, how we support, and then we hope that that helps kind of empower our community and our audience to be able to feel better about the brand when they're personally wearing it, and tells the world a little bit about who they are when they are able to be seen in our product. So always thinking about the consumer, and I'll kind of pass it off from there.
Wonderful. I must say that's a great thought that you shared there, like resonating with your consumers' thoughts and kind of taking a stand and kind of empowering them. When a brand takes a stand, consumers feel empowered, and they also uh, like when brands have something to say at a community level, it can have a huge impact, a very positive in fact, and it can go a long way because I think what's happening all around us is kind of unpredictable, and but I think when brands kind of take a stand and kind of uh, have their mission aligned with the community, it can really turn out something very good for the community. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Rob, I want to ask you a question. You have built this very unique brand with the Phluid Project. I would like to know your thoughts. Like, what is the purpose of your brand?
Yes, so Phluid, it was created 2.5 years ago, and it's a combination of my passion, well, my profession, which is fashion and retail, and my passion, which is social justice, especially around the LGBTQ plus space. And so I built this brand, and I opened a store because the brand is about not just gender-free fashion, but also about activism and community and education. And so that's the foundation. And we built our foundation on values and a mission statement to challenge boundaries with humanity. So we aren't against something, but we're for something. And so the reason I opened a store was because I really wanted to get to know the community and engage with the community and build trust. And so the store had 250 events in 2 years, less than 2 years. So it was about community building. We have a very engaged, organic community. At the core are transgender and non-binary folks, but the broader audience is queer and Generation Z, who believes in social justice and who believes in the environment. And, you know, what happened, although it was not what I had planned, to close the store and to move to pop-ups and do these things, I had to do a pivot. But because of the foundation of who we are, we were able to lean into this space. And so when the Black Lives Matter movement started, it actually, you know, I listened to Deepak Chopra, 21 Days of Abundance, and I don't know, something he said was, behind every obstacle is an opportunity. And I had to rethink the strategy and pivot quickly. And, you know, one of the things that happened was Pride is our biggest month in June. We have, you know, tons of rainbows, and you couldn't even talk about Pride in June. It was completely inappropriate. But what started selling for us was Trans Lives Matter t-shirts and Protect Trans Kids and Marsha P. Johnson. And the activist part of it's really started to rise in the community. We started to dedicate 20% of our sales to go back to the brown and black queer folk, especially transgender community, who is suffering especially. And we started to find our space and our voice in this new time. And it really resonated with our community. And so that felt great. And then just like weird things happened, like we made face masks and we put our positive messaging, and Macy's and Bloomingdale's bought them. You know, like things just started happening that you couldn't even plan. But when you are a brand that's built on authenticity and community relationships, you just find new ways, and they just started coming to us. So it's been a really interesting year. Nothing like I planned, but it feels completely natural. And I feel like we have not lost our voice. We've actually gained our voice and our positioning where we are right now with the brand.
Wonderful, wonderful. There's a strong purpose, I think, for what you stand for and why your brand, what your brand stands for. And ultimately, when the purpose is, it will find its way. And I think it's uh, and it's going to impact life in a manner. It's a great thought, and I believe a lot of brands will learn a lot that you have started, and it's all about the identity that you are able to offer through the work that you are doing. It's commendable.
Thank
Excellent.
you. My ultimate goal is to, gender roles and what we're expected to be when we're born male and female. That ultimately what I want to do is break those apart and break apart, the limitations by being identified as male or female, and break apart those limitations and just let us, fluid itself means the space between two binaries that you could float and play.
True.
And the fact that we as humans are capable or have the ability to be so much more if we break apart the constructs that have been handed down to us from generations, and let us just be the authentic humans that we are.
Excellent, excellent. I believe it's going to have a trickle down effect with what you have started. Maybe it might give more and more people the kind of empowerment, or they feel empowered that, okay, this brand is doing it. Let me join them. Let me do the similar thing. And I think that's how the whole community will feel empowered. Excellent thought there. Beth, I would like to come to you. And I think you are in a unique position. You are you have built this brand with a very niche positioning. What is the purpose of your? Shed some light on it.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear more about what you're all working on. It's yeah, super impressive stuff. We are working on trying to fix a couple of big problems in the fashion industry. One is inventory. There's just too much that we make. And the other is finding the right size. We don't really believe in sizes. We think they're very limiting. In a way, if you look at them, you look at the history of them, they're actually pretty discriminatory as well. I won't dive into that too much, but we believe that we should make clothing on demand. We should make something when someone purchases it, and that will solve both problems at the same time. You know exactly who's purchasing, and you can make it without any excess waste. That's really hard to do because people want something when they purchase it. It's kind of just something we have come to expect. So we've been developing technology, both software and hardware, to make this happen. At this point, we've commercialized on our software, and we've launched our brand. With the brand, you can get custom fit jeans. So basically, you are at home, you have a phone, and you scan your body. That goes into our system based on all sorts of things that you choose about your jeans, and we kind of output a pattern that we believe is perfect fitting. We have a really good fit rate. It's not 100%, but it's very, very close. So that's that kind of flow for the customer on our brand. But we know we're not going to have enough of an impact on the industry with just our brand. So we're bringing this to others as well. We want other brands to be able to use our technology. So in 2 weeks, we're launching with H&M and their brand Weekday in Stockholm. So same experience. They'll have the body scanner, but it will be in store. Customer goes through and chooses all the options they want for their jeans. That will come to us. We create the pattern and send it to their factory. They make it in 5 days and it comes back to them. It's still a 5-day wait, so it's not completely on demand, but that's a pretty good turnaround for something that's custom. That's why we're working on the hardware. Is like people. We'll see in the future. I actually think that COVID and this year has made people even more patient, which is good. I think people are willing to wait a little bit longer for their products. But it's 5 days is still pretty long in the time of Amazon. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, to speak to your first question on a pivot, we've or adapting, I guess, we've adapted this year by moving to mobile scanning, to phone scanning. We used to have in-store body scanning, but now because of COVID, everyone was locked at home for a while, and so we needed to, similar to what Brian and David were talking about, meet people where they are and kind of speak to what situations they're going through. People are stuck at home, so you really need to meet them there.
Wow. So you got a great combination of fashion and technology, and you're married them, and which is actually solving a problem. And the things we take it for granted, like I think it can really solve that inventory problem. And changer, I think can empower so much there. And I must say that I think so you are in the technology business too, not just in the fashion business, but that's amazing. Glad to know that. Uh, David, you are like your brand is a leader in the eyewear industry, and how do you embrace technology to solve the challenges, especially in times like this? Definitely, where a user cannot come to the store to purchase their eyewear. So, how are you embracing technology?
Sure. Technology in the digital sphere is something that we definitely have done a lot of work in the last year. We do sell to optical professionals, so we're a wholesale company, and then we sell our products to them. And to your point, they've had to adapt. For a while, their stores have been closed, or they've had to have modified visits from their patients. So there's been a big change in the way they deliver their services. And so we've had to think about novel ways that we can support retailing in this way. And, again, we have found that by doing research we've done with AR, augmented reality, and virtual try-ons, we've gone through some work with some advanced software, and also because of the hardware has progressed so much, like with Apple technology and the 3D face recognition cameras with the true depth cameras, they now can read and scan people's faces for a perfect fit and scaling. So we've integrated that technology and we focused. So on our website, you can then go try on a frame. You can make a decision so that when the patient goes to the office, to the doctor's office to get a frame, or to the optician, then that patient will already have started the process of deciding and selecting and going through this preliminary, because the office visits, there's less time. People don't want to be in the office looking through frames for a long time. Yeah. So again, what the other panelists have said, that it's almost very interesting time and exciting time, because we've had to come up with solutions. So we've had to deliver products, and we've had to deliver ideas in a different way. And to your question, the digital sphere is something that we've learned how to deliver our products and our messages in a much different way. So because of the advances, we've been able to do a much better job in the last year. And this gave us some time with this situation to dig in deep and recreate ourselves. And we all know that in business, solutions and ideas and new technology and innovation really comes from problems, because it's about creating solutions around problems and challenges. And so some level, this is how, we've looked at technology and tried to determine, with people being at a different place, how we can be relevant.
That's excellent. So I think as a brand, you are kind of shaping the vision. You are taking that step forward and thinking ahead of the future to make sure you are always there for your end consumers.
Right. We're trying to create more engagement, but then not forgetting the human element, because I think we think that the world's going to become digital and it's going to be so homogenized and different, but actually we found that it could be more personalized. It can create this connection of engagements and these style sessions where the customer really has more time to view products, and that they become more informed. And so then when they go and they have an optical professional work with them, they have more information. So that's how we're bridging technology.
Oh, excellent. I mean, I must say, amazing to know that how, I mean, as a brand, it's operating at that scale. It's not that you still manage to do it, and ultimately the end consumer wins. So that's a great point there. Brian, I would like to ask this next question to you. You have established a very over the year. What what is that consumer engagement strategy that you have adapted to scale up your brand and to kind of make a mark in the consumer's mind, that when they think of next scam, they in and go for it. So what are some of those strategies, if you can share two, three that can work?
I think I got the question. It was a little choppy, Kuldeep, but effectively what I took is what have we done to evolve the messaging and interaction with the customer to help guide them into a secondary purchase or
Engagement strategies
yeah, and get
that you have
re-engagement.
adapted.
Okay, cool. We've done a lot actually. We were one of the and I don't recommend this. I think any brand owner can attest to being a first adopter of a software. But we were one of the earlier adopters of what's called a customer data platform. It's kind of a mix of an email service provider mixed with a customer data platform, but it's called Exponia. And we have the benefit of having a large parent company that is willing to take those kinds of risks and invest. And so Exponia has effectively helped us learn a lot more about our consumers and the way in which they were re-engaging or not. And it really actually helped reform the way in which we develop and deliver products seasonally in headwear. You've got this unique placement on the consumer's body wherein you're typically protecting yourself from the sun. You also have the attribute of your head is where your body regulates temperature. So you can either insulate or help breathe and help regulate body temperature. And then you also have all these neuroreceptors right on that kind of axis and where the sweatband sits on the head. So there's like all these great parts that you can play with. We looked at the way we were selling product and realized that we wanted the same consumer to buy a second, third, and potentially fourth hat for each what we call chapter in their life. And so we build a really lightweight, very water friendly, call it beach, lake, outdoor friendly collection called Hydro, which is typically going to be your first purchase with Melin because it's makes it the majority of the business. It's the most universally wearable. You can wear a lightweight hat in cold weather, but you can't really wear a thick insulating hat in warm weather. So Hydros are water-friendly summer season. We then looked at the repurchase rates and found that our customers will typically enjoy that experience and buy one, maybe two more colors of a Hydro hat in a summer. Keep in mind, we build products that are meant to last a very long time. So we have this unique window in which to re-engage them, and then we likely won't hear back from them for a very long time on that same collection unless there's some new color pattern, et cetera, or technology that we can like 2.0 the following year. So then within the same year, we have thermal now, which is our cold weather body temperature regulating headwear, where you've got insulation, you've got this really neat material that we're working with through Scholler that has these tiny porous rubber backings on a really cool wool that creates impermeability in cold weather. So if snow or if it's snowing on your hat, this backing tightens itself up naturally, and then if your body heats up and heats up, the pores expand and allow for temperature to escape. But anyway, so there's your re-engagement due to a more applicable functionality benefit for a different type of weather. And then now we found that our consumer is very, very active and is constantly very conscious of the environment, their own health, the food they're putting in their body. And so we're creating Active, and Active is what we're calling almost like shoulder season product, but it's in that springtime when you're coming off the holiday fat, so to speak, and everyone's re-engaging in those resolutions. And then at the end of summer, when you've exhausted that beach body, but you don't want to let it go and you want to stay in shape going into that holiday hibernation. And so Active will be a a shoulder season collection that should be really advantageous to the consumer that wants to basically have a better headwear experience for working out. But yeah, we use the customer data to try to create better solutions for the intended use of the product.
Excellent. So you are spending a lot of time, I think, in the product research. I believe that's the key, because if you make a great product, consumers will love it. I think the early adapters become ambassadors, and that's how the trickle down effect can happen. And they become the ambassadors. I mean, definitely marketing is something that works. I think if you build a great product, it just finds the consumers. So I think it's glad to know that the amount of effort that goes in that the hat that you're wearing is commendable, I must say. Great.
Wow, thank you.
Because I think this is what I call attention to detail, because these are some of the things that typically gets, I think everyone can make a hat, but I think the effort that goes in making those changes and making sure that the product and the fabric that you're using, those make a big end of the day. If the consumer feels happy after they have made the purchase, they become the consumer for lifetime. That's how I look at it as things in general as well. So I'm really happy to know that your brand is spending that much time in the research. Rob, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we're completely aligned, and I love Beth's mission and vision for her business, in that hats are made to, until now, to be worn, sweat in, and thrown away and go buy another one. And so we're building, the headwear with the hope that it will last you generations and be renewable, washable, and we want you to have 20 of them, but we don't want you to throw away 5 every month. So
that's true. Yeah, I think there's a big discussion going on around the world around sustainability and how brands are adapting to sustainable practices. And I think what it's doing is kind of taking that step in that direction. And I think there will be more followers to that. So I'm really happy that how brands are adapting, because this is not easy. Sustainability, bringing those sustainable practices, and it's a very difficult thing. And so that's what I'm really happy what Beth and you are doing. It's really, really nice. Rob, I would like to come to you. I think your brand is kind of addressing a very unique problem, and it's in a very niche space, and ultimately, which has a very strong purpose. Some of the engagement strategies brand adapts, definitely, apart from how do you engage with your end consumers? What digital marketing strategies do you adopt?
I would say, first of all, I hope that we're not niche. I think that when you think about something that is gender non-specific, it's actually for everybody. So while it is at the core for non-binary, transgender folks and queer folks, I think that it actually broadens itself to be very inclusive for people who care about other humans, care about the environment, and it becomes a brand that resonates with many humans. I won't say all, because there's always going to be outliers of people who don't want to change, or don't think values are important, or have different set of values than our set of values. But something that challenge has been is I'm old school. I'm a tactile person. I like to meet and greet people. I loved having events at the store because I like to sit down and learn from people and hear their stories and what's important to them, and watch somebody walk out of a fitting room and hear from them what their experience is. So it's been hard for me. That's why I was going to pop-ups. But what we have decided to do, and it's always like there's lists to do, but they got reshuffled this year. So I'm in the process of recreating the website to reflect the experience that the store had. So it is not going to be just a transactional place that, already we have resources on our website, but we're going to create more content, some of it created by us, which are discussions and conversations and panels. But also we're going to create content by the community. We're going to let them create the content, and we're going to put that on our website. So we're actually letting them take their voices and their stories, and we're going to let them, and basically unedited, let them create content for the website. So, it's it's allowing them the freedom to share their narrative and what's important to them. So the website, as we're recreating it, is a place that, you know, I don't expect someone to come in and, I mean, somebody could come in and spend 3 minutes and buy something and leave, but my hope is that when they visit our website, that they hang out for 30 minutes or an hour and really understand the brand and understand the community. And you know, we're focusing now on voting, and we're focusing on social justice, and that will continue to elevate and amplify on the website as it becomes broader, and really just giving the community an opportunity to create what they want for them.
Wow. So it's like you're building a great. No, it's not just like from the business standpoint. It's doing what business is supposed to do, but platform. It's like it's becoming like an self.
I have a funny story. So I created a fragrance line last year, started it, and I created like cards and passed it out all during June, and let the community decide which scents they wanted. So as we worked with a company, I actually didn't get to smell the final scents until they were ready and done. And it was a community decision on which scents to put together and how to make it, which is, for a control freak Virgo, you know, it was hard, but it's magnificent. And these 5 scents, which are named all of our values, have been, you know, really well received. When you let your community really participate, they feel engaged, they feel heard, and pretty soon we'll start working on our ambassador program and encourage, as we start to create product, get community input as we build a product, like what the community wants, and it's just continuing to reach out to them, and with their passion, have them continue to build the business and the product categories.
Wonderful. Amazing. That's an excellent point that you shared there. It's like you're really turning the things like you're community driven. Like your whole business is making sure that they are feeling that they get that empowerment. And as you said rightly, I think the niche is not the right word. Like a common thing. But yes, change is difficult. But I think change will happen over a period of time. It's just a matter of time. So what you're doing, I think, is you becoming more. We need more leaders like you who can kind of put that vision forward and the thought forward, and then it kind of finds its way to the entire world. So I believe it's possible, and you're going in that direction step by step. So it's nice.
And the one last thing we're doing is we're hearing from our customers. They talk about, when you listen, they want us to produce more ethical clothing. You know, we decide that where we make it, how we make it, but we're now putting energy into upcycled collections. So as we start to build our collections for this fall holiday, it's going to be in addition to other how we make it and where we make it, but start to really lean in to creating sustainable product through upcycling.
Wonderful. So you're doing so many things, I must say.
Too many things.
And I believe I think your team must be doing a great job, because to manage this, it's not that, but with the way things are happening and the stand that you have taken, and I think it's an idea. It's basically, it takes time for the idea to find its way, but I think you have made the beginning in the right direction. Excellent. Beth, you being like not just into fashion, but you are like a creator of, how do you see your brand empowering other brands in fashion to solve this problem of inventory? Current time where after the scan, it takes for the product to come out and reach the consumer. Do you think in the long run, how can you empower other brands? How do you work with other brands to offer your technology?
Yeah, good question. And I think you're asking, how can we work with other brands and how can we bring our technology to them? Okay, great. Yeah, we're pretty flexible. To this point, we've mostly brought our custom fit to them. So making it possible for anyone who walks through the store to find something that they feel very confident in that fits them. We typically will work with our design team to figure out what does a style mean in an infinite number of shapes. We don't even use the word size because that's very, it's like a template. We're really working on a 3D form. It's kind of a different way for a designer to think about something because they've been forced into thinking about size sets, like small, medium, large, or maybe 10 sizes. And they can think about what they're designing in each of those sizes and how it kind of translates as you change size in different ways. But now they have to think about any possible shape coming through and how that's going to affect their style. So that's something that's a challenge, but also kind of a fun opportunity to think about what does style mean? Like, what is style? And yeah, how does that relate to a body? So that's the first step, is really working with their design team to figure that out. And then we, of course, work with their production team to make it a kind of seamless process where previously they were cutting all of the same size, all the same kind of shape, stacking up hundreds of layers of fabrics and doing that all at once. That's where it's tricky, is we have to do it one layer at a time. So we have to work with the production team to say, okay, here's this one pattern that you're going to make. It's an MOQ of one thing. And so we basically are limited to any factory that's forward thinking and flexible. There are plenty out there because they know that times are changing, but not all of them are willing to work like this. So those are a couple of ways that we work with brands, but the intention is to help the brand remove the headache of inventory. As we know, before COVID, a lot of brands were dealing with 40% of what they were making was going straight to landfill because they couldn't sell it. It would just go through all the markdowns, and then at the end of the day, nothing would happen to it. It's worse now because the demand is not there like it used to be, especially for certain categories, and especially for us in fashion, with people sitting at home. Jeans, for example, we sell jeans. People are not buying jeans like they used to, and the customers that we have for our brand they're erring on comfortable, on stretchy. So our raw denim is not selling like it used to. But there's no issue for us because we don't have inventory. All it is a picture on a website. So it's not like we've lost any money there. Whereas with a brand that had to think about making it ahead of time, they're sitting on a lot of product that they don't know what to do with. So that's really what the brands are looking for. But also, like we've been talking about today, people's mindsets are changing. They're demanding more in a good way. Like they want more sustainability, they want more transparency, and they're recognizing that that things aren't set up the right way. And so to have the option of getting something in their shape, not even their size, that's a huge pull for a customer. And so that's another reason that brands are coming to us, is so that people don't have to deal with that headache, and especially returns online. A lot of brands are dealing with anywhere, it depends on who you talk to, anywhere from 30 to 50% of what they send out comes back. And to think that I've definitely purchased things before online and haven't been happy with it, but it's just so inconvenient to send it back that I don't even send it back. So the numbers of people who are unhappy with what they order online are even higher than that. So yeah, those are a few ways that we work with brands.
Wonderful. That's great. I think your technology can become an enabler for brands to of inventory and ultimately returns, and it can really take away that pain, and it really can solve that major problem. I think throughout the world, I think this sustainability thing has been talked about for the last year almost, but finally this is a time where it needed, but cannot do that overnight. It requires a lot of efforts. So I think if more technologies like you and are accessible for brands, it can really become a game changer. Thank you. David, I would like to come to you, and you are a leader in the eyewear space, and you have seen it all. Like you have seen different types of trends and the way evolved over a period of time. And during the challenging times where the demand side thing, like it has shrunk definitely because people are not traveling, people are not that they used to do, taken ahead. So how do you see luxury? Has luxury taken a hit? How do you see luxury in the next few years till the time everything becomes normal? But we don't know when that normal. Thoughts on that?
Well, I think luxury is a very important thing in the chain of events because luxury brands, they create aspiration and they set the tone. And a lot of things come out of that. And it's not necessarily other luxury products, it's just people's taste change. And then it moves to different price points. So, what I'd say is that, people have always bought things because they wanted to express themselves. That's a
Right.
given. But what
Yeah.
everybody has talked about today is we've all had to take, a step back and we've had to
Mm.
think about all the traditional models of delivery. And
Mm-hmm.
so I do think to answer your question, people will want nice things. Luxury will have a place. But I think the
Yeah.
more important question today is how people deliver products to people. And we're looking at every stage of the process from, concepting with factories at that stage so that we're more efficient, so not as many prototypes are being made, so that our footprint isn't as big. And everything Beth was talking about in terms of inventories, we want to be more precise. So that I think really what the big change today that we're looking at is how people are going to deliver goods to people, and so that people can still identify with brands and feel that they can buy things to be self-expressed. So
Yeah.
I believe the technology that has come about, it's finally at that inflection point where
Mm-hmm.
you can leverage this technology to have really usable information and data about your customer, so you're
Yeah.
not making them live in this antiquated model where they just have to show up at a store with 1,000 things and hope they find one thing that expresses themselves. So
Yeah.
really, I believe that's how luxury and every product in the future is really
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to understand their audience and capture their audience attention and make
Mm-hmm.
something so valuable to somebody that it will be
Yeah.
worth it. Because I think
That's
it's
true.
just getting rid of all of this waste and extra product. So that's what we've talked about today is just, the decision process and the selection process for the customer. So we make it so that their choices can be there, but it's in a different way, in a non-traditional way. And so that they
Mm-hmm.
can engage with your brand or your product, even in the background, understanding your authenticity or if you're trustworthy. And that's why there's so many touch points today that people have
Yeah.
to work with the brand so that they feel a confidence, and then the brand has to deliver by
Yeah.
some of these devices we've talked about, like virtual fittings and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
so that we just aren't putting a lot of physical product in front of people. And that's been the old retail model. And this is
Mm-hmm.
really an exciting time as well, because we find that the traditional methodology just isn't going to work and sustain us. So these are ways that we're developing these technologies and investing in them to
Mm-hmm.
support our retailers as well. So that's
Wonderful.
where luxury is just having a more efficient
Mm-hmm.
distribution system, so there's less waste, so
Yeah.
it becomes just as accessible for people.
Wonderful. So I think innovation there, I think what you said is the supply side innovation and the
Mm.
innovation to make sure that what consumers are looking for reaches them. And yeah, so that's a great point there. Thank you. Brian, uh, as a brand, you learn about you can serve them with your product. So what thought on behavioral segmentation aspect of consumers. Definitely, depending upon the products that you have, it can vary from fashion. Like for every vertical, it will be different. In your case, how do you understand your consumer behavior so that you can stay connected with them?
It's a great question. We engage very, very actively with our consumer on social. We encourage a lot of user generated content via reposting. We run a lot of contests. We heavily push share with a friend if you like what you found with us. You know, we'd love to elevate their headwear as well. We actually have a great software that we utilize that it basically incentivizes a review after every purchase. Most companies do at this point. And we find a lot of takeaways from the feedback we get there, which really helps guide future decision making. We also find it very helpful to kind of pick a targeted activity in which you would often be wearing your hat, and then really dissect what the competition that's currently available in that space looks like, look for ways we can provide an advantage, and then really focus in on truly solving a problem. So a lot of customers are very willing to tell you what you're doing wrong, and so we listen to that sort of feedback, and we really encourage it. And so we also, something that I think is unique to us that I think has been very valuable is we re-engage them in a phone call a week after purchase. And it's kind of what BMW does. If you lease a car, they'll call and say, is the car working out all right? They want you to have buyer's remorse. And so we feel the same way. We're a very premium price point, and we know that the consumer that does purchase on their first purchase has a high expectation and likely a skepticism. And so we want to make sure that when they receive the product that we're able to guide them through the advantages in the product, so that it helps them realize it as they're wearing it in a performance capacity. And oftentimes in that phone call, there's a lot of insight shared. And to Beth's point, oftentimes we will find that they weren't enthralled with their initial experience, and it's due to shape of the hat they chose, fit, maybe the color doesn't, resonate with them the way they thought it would. And so we're able to preempt kind of a lot of those consumers that may have just simply been unhappy but may not have returned or engaged us. And we're able to kind of solidify that every single person has a great experience, but a ton of communication is at the forefront of what we do. And our entire mission is perpetuating innovation. So we feel like we'll accomplish something neat, and immediately we high five and then immediately look to what the next thing is we could potentially improve upon. We've taken a lot from the consumers' insights on how we can evolve our supply chain, materializations, be more sustainable. There's just a ton there. And so we've eliminated a ton of unnecessary packaging. When I launched the brand with my partner, Corey, we were teetering on a luxury product, and our hats came in a black leather luxury box. It was the most opulent experience ever, and it was intended to be so because we wanted to make sure no one would ever be able to say they build a better hat than us. And so we wanted to make sure it resonated with the consumer. Price points went from $150 to $1,000 retail, and so and over time we were really asking ourselves, does this box serve a purpose? And it was probably 50-50. That the customer would keep the hat in their box. And so we realized that 50% of the time we were creating waste. So we eliminated that. We evolved their poly bags. We evolved the hang tags to eliminate single-use plastics. And all of these have been driven by consumer feedback and engagement, times our own thoughts and hopes. And so, so I'd say we do a ton. We also engage on SMS now, which has been a really neat way of being very personalized in the way you can kind of get into your customers' conversations, but for whatever reason, SMS is a lot more personal, and so they'll let it rip there a lot more readily than in an email.
Wonderful. Listening to your consumers and kind of making sure that you're there all throughout their journey, right from their purchase stage till the final delivery. That's great.
100%.
Excellent.
And I have a comment to David's point on luxury. As we launched and as a luxury brand and watched the migration to e-commerce be accelerated over the last 5 years, and that consumer make that purchase based on what we believe to be one of two reasons, and it's either status or function, but ultimately to them it's value. And so luxury allows for, like David said, the aspiration, and allows you to feel accomplished. It's a symbol of achievement, right? And then when you really think of function, oftentimes luxury is not comfortable or better performing or longer lasting or any of these things. And so we've heavily migrated our belief system from being a status symbol to being the highest quality product that is also a status symbol. And so we kind of shifted our prioritization a ton there.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that luxury is in a crazy state of flux right now. Mm-hmm. And that with Virgil being appointed head of Louis and all the change happening, you can really see that luxury is in such a swing state that I believe luxury looks 180 degrees different than it did 5 years ago, 5 years from now. And when I say that, I mean, I think it will become very difficult to sell a heavily overpriced item without the ability to really back it up in experience and product. And so I think the status will likely matter slightly less, and almost the way you're viewed for your intellect and the cause behind what you're wearing will be far more a version of premium or luxury going forward.
Wow, that's excellent. I mean, yeah, it's very true. I think, yeah, luxury is evolving. I believe the way people look at when they buy products is it's, as David also mentioned earlier, like it's an aspiration that people have when they buy a product. It's not just a product that they're buying. They feel that it's like an aspiration that they have and they want to have it. And so I think that's the driving point, and it's evolving, as you said it rightly. And what you're doing is translating that feedback into your, making sure that that experience is coherent, and that personalization that you're doing again. The next question that I have for the panelist is, maybe I could go to Rob for this question. As a brand owner, spend your marketing budget on? Like, do you spend it on Google ad, Facebook ad, Instagram ads? Where do you go for your ad campaigns?
It's funny, and this is the truth, I've probably spent no more than $1,000 in 2.5 years on advertising. That I have relied entirely on word of mouth, consumer engagement, press. So I have not spent any money on marketing. That said, if somebody gave me, I self-funded the business, if somebody gave me $30,000, I'd do it in a minute. But I believe that the first 2 years of building the brand, that I want brand enthusiasts. I want high engagement on social media. I don't want more followers just to have more followers. I want, but that said, one of the things I'm working on is a better job at SEO, a better job at user experience. And I'm focusing on that because I could be doing more business. It's just that I have chosen not to spend money on marketing the business and letting people find out about it through organic word of mouth. Wow.
Okay. Organic marketing. That's great. So
I think the money I spent was on events in the store. Like, we put out some booze and some like food, and people would show up and they'd start posting and start sharing, and we continue to try to create content that's shareable and watch our followers grow, and doing it through people's belief in what we stand for and creating interesting content that people want to share. I think you're frozen.
There it is.
But yeah, we'll pass to somebody else. There you are.
Rob, just to comment on that, that's super powerful. That speaks to the power of tribe you're creating with your brand to have it mean so much to somebody that they can't wait to share with somebody else and bring someone else into the community. That's a huge deal. So God bless, man.
Appreciate it.
Wonderful. If you, I think we are almost at the end of our panel discussion. So I would like to have this last question for all of you. Like, you as business leaders have done things and evolved over a period of time, like business operations, logistics. There are several components to it. And the most important part is the internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. How do you work with your team to make sure that you are able to achieve that goal for your brand? So that to make sure that everyone is aligned with that vision, because ultimately when you are operating at that scale, it's the teams which are the driving forces. So how do you do that? How do you work with your team? How do you align and kind of translate that vision to your team? Maybe I can start with David.
Yeah, I mean, briefly, I'll just say it's about communication and really discussing what the ideas are and putting them on the table for the team. And the important part is, just not one person's driving an idea. It's about having the team come up with what is the best course of action. And also, these discussions are all about understanding the customer and what their needs are and identifying those needs. And I think these discussions are exciting and they're lively and they're things that the team can really get behind, because that's what we talked about before, is luxury in the future isn't going to be just about a nice shiny object. It's going to be about an expression and somebody feel they can connect to the brand and they can connect to what its values are. And really, we're seeing the most successful luxury brands today are the ones with the most innovation, and they're the ones who are experimenting. So luxury is really changing and shifting to be defined as that which is the most experimental product, because people want to be the first, and that's a value that people put on it. So I would just say, in general, that would be the thing. It's lots of discussions with the team so people know what direction the company is going. For all stakeholders in the company, everybody who's there, so that you explain what the decisions are by the team and which direction you're going to go, so you know where you're going.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, David. Beth, how about you? How do you work with your team? Because I think you have a long vision and it's a long way forward. How do you work with your internal stakeholders and external stakeholders?
Yeah, it is hard with like immediate goals and long-term goals that are 5 years out, 10 years out. Yeah, it's a little tricky. I'll have to admit, we're a tech company, so we use OKRs. We use objective and key results. We adopted them last year. I was kind of dragging my feet at first. I was pretty hesitant. I was like, we're not going to be another tech company and do this, but they work really well. They get everyone on board. And similar to what David was saying, like as founders, we originally said, okay, here are the goals, go do these things. It doesn't work the same way. You really need to have the team develop what those goals are, and so they have the ultimate buy-in. We do set like the very high level goals. It's kind of important to do that, but anything that someone's going to be working on, they should really be setting the goal for that. So that's how we work.
Excellent. Great point. Brian, how about you? Well, how do you work with your teams, internal stakeholders and external stakeholders?
I think it's something that I struggle the most with, is getting buy-in from a growing team and making sure that the same level of like invigoration is there at the person packing each order at the warehouse level as there is at the person developing the next most technically innovative thing. I couldn't agree more with what David said around really asking your team for buy-in and opinion, and being supportive of that entrepreneurial spirit at any level of engagement. And so we reward innovation at any level. From you could take 3 inches off our packing tape usage by only going an inch down on each side. That's a commendable thing, and then we celebrate it. We've evolved to a morning team Zoom call, and so there's a lot of stakeholders on that call, and you get the ability to really shine the light on somebody or a couple people every day, and I think that creates a level of pride for what they do and a feeling of purpose amongst the team. I think to Beth's point, explaining what it is that your objective is, and then how each stakeholder's participation ultimately is an important piece in that entire workflow, and not just asking for a specific task to be accomplished of anybody, but really having them understand what their piece of the pie is a really important part. And I'd say we're not doing an exceptional job at it. We're always looking at ways to get better at this, and so I'm listening close right now.
Wow, great. Excellent point. How about you, Rob? Your final thoughts on working with your teams? And
I am very unusual this way. I have a young group of people that work for me. I'm by far the oldest person in my group. I give direction, or at least prioritize and direction, and I let them create everything. I basically don't see anything until it shows up on Instagram or until it shows up somewhere. They give them the space to create what they do, and they work as a team. There's not silo jobs. They work cross-functionally. I'm trying new things. I'm actually speaking to a college, and I'm outsourcing projects to classes and to students to create more product who are passionate about the brand. And those are internal. And externally, I do a lot of work with companies and help them enter this space, like Procter & Gamble or Mattel, or also working with other fashion brands. And I make them take gender expansive training or courses and education before they engage with the community, so they understand who they're working with, why they're doing it. And so for external stakeholders, they have to go through a training program if they're going to be engaging in a project and with the community. And so that's how I work with external stakeholders. But it ends up, we all end up winning. But it can't be a one way, we're going to take from you, but you have to understand who you're working with, why you're doing it, and do it with authenticity and integrity to have our name attached to it.
excellent. I must say, I think this has been an excellent panel discussion today, and you guys have really opened up about the thought process and what goes in building such a great brand. Right from what David has said about how he looks at vision and how he translates that vision towards his team, or how he sees things like the luxury products, I mean, how they're evolving and how it's aspirational for a product. How Brian is spending so much of time in making sure that the product that they're building kind of is, the consumers love it and they become the ambassadors, and it trickles down, and that's how you win your consumers for lifetime. What Beth is doing, I think, is really amazing with the technology that she is bringing in to the world of fashion, can solve and can be a game changer in the long run. And what Rob is doing through his Phluid project is kind of giving a platform and creating an identity and empowerment for the community. I think these are some of the takeaways that I could pick up from today's conversation. And there's so much to learn, I think, from leaders like you and from brands like you. And I think you guys must be inspiring so many of the brands out there. And we would love to learn more about what you are doing in supply chain and on the logistics side of things, to make sure that you are solving those problems as well, maybe in our future panel discussions. So we really want to say thank you once again for participating in today's panel discussion and kind of showing the way forward. And it's great to have you all with us today. And I'll be in touch. Looking forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you so much. Thank you, David. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you all.
Great
Yeah.
to meet you all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.